This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. President Trump is doing something many doubted he would ever do: impose tariffs on America's allies. It's a tool he's using to try to get the countries to correct trade imbalances with the U.S. But there are fears the move could cause financial pain here at home. Our Jennifer Wishon is on the story from Washington.
For President Trump, it's a campaign promise kept, cracking down on trade imbalances that hurt the U.S. economy. Today, new tariffs on steel and aluminum from America's allies, Canada, Mexico, and the European Union.
Let me be clear. These tariffs are totally unacceptable.
Back in March, the president gave these nations more time to negotiate, but with no deal, he's keeping his deadline.
I believe the European Union just thought, well, it's surely this is another president, American president, bloviating over trade, and in the end, nothing's going to happen.
We've been taken advantage of by the world. That's not going to be happening anymore.
Countries threaten retaliation by targeting American products, ranging from blue jeans to toilet paper and peanut butter to pork. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue tells CBN News the U.S. is ready.
We're working on a package, and there are authorities here within the Secretary of USDA in order to utilize programs and funds that would support farmers if they are harmed and damaged by trade disputes.
The news caused the Dow to dip 250 points. Here in Washington, a number of Republicans criticized the president's move. At this time of economic growth, the last thing we should be waging is a trade war, Illinois Republican Congressman Randy Hultgren writes. But some economists say members of Congress allowed huge trade imbalances to rack up.
They're falling prey to the lobbyists that are coming out of the woodwork on this.
French President Emmanuel Macron calls the president's move illegal, but Mexico's economic minister says he doesn't see a trade war coming. The tariffs come just as Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross leaves for China to try and defuse a trade war with the world's second largest economy. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
Here now is a look at some of the other big headlines we're following for you today inside the CBN newsroom. The on-again, off-again summit between President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un is currently still on. After meeting with the top Korean official, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told reporters there is good progress in the talks on both sides. That North Korean official is also making a rare visit to Washington today to deliver a letter from Kim Jong Un to the president. The Archdiocese of St. Paul and Minneapolis has agreed to pay a $210 million settlement to 400 victims of sexual abuse at the hands of clergy. The settlement is part of its plan for bankruptcy reorganization. It is the second largest payout from the nation's Roman Catholic Church. The plan will be submitted to a judge who is expected to approve it. Comedian Samantha Bee has apologized to Ivanka Trump for using an obscenity to describe her. Bee hosts the TBS show called Full Frontal. On it, she used a vulgar reference when using Ivanka to speak with the president, urging her rather to speak with the president. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders called the language vile and vicious. TBS says Bee had taken the right step in apologizing. You can read more on these stories throughout the day at cbnnews.com. Subtropical storm Alberto's death toll continues to rise as heavy rain sparked more flooding in Virginia. At least one person was killed when their car was swept off the road Wednesday night. The floodwaters washed out bridges, damaged homes, and even caused school closures due to poor road conditions. Virginia officials say teams responded to at least 10 water rescues and are continuing to search for additional people. The National Weather Service has warned more rainfall and flash flooding could continue today. Hawaii Island's mayor has issued a 24-hour mandatory evacuation as the Kilauea volcano eruption escalates. One of the volcano's fissures has been spewing lava up to 260 feet in the air for the past 2 days. Officials say it has been the most active of any fissure over the past month. Residents in the evacuation zone have until noon today to leave, or they could face possible arrest.
You all know the mayor. His abiding concern has always been for the safety of the residents and the first responders. Everybody concerned. So this is the real reason behind all of this.
Thank you.
Yes, the safety of everybody.
Sulfur dioxide in some areas are said to have reached deadly levels. It has been 70 years since Bedouin shepherds and archaeologists discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls. And as CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell reports, experts are still learning from that historic discovery.
While this may look like a box of garbage, it's truly part of an ancient treasure.
In our storeroom, we have a lot of boxes with fragments that, as far as I could tell, had never been sorted, had never been investigated.
Oren Abelman of the Israel Antiquities Authority found it during work to digitize and publish the Dead Sea Scrolls.
It looked like it was garbage. It didn't look like there was anything here. You couldn't really see anything with your own eyes.
This is the lab where experts examine fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls discovered 70 years ago. Standing here is like hearing the echoes of Bible times from 2,000 years ago.
I worked on comparing the handwriting on these fragments that I found to other manuscripts. I very quickly started finding matches between the handwriting of the scribes.
Abelman used advanced imaging technology to take another look at 82 fragments he couldn't read before. 12 had enough text to work with.
Probably the best example that I had is this fragment here, where the word that I read there is zamra in Hebrew, which means a song. Based on the handwriting of the scribe, I could tell that this fragment belonged to what's called the Great Psalm Scroll.
Another fragment indicated an additional scroll might exist. Panina Shore heads up the Dead Sea Scrolls unit. She sees a special connection between the scrolls and Israel's 70th birthday.
On the eve of the 29th of November, when they were voting at the UN for the partition plan, the son of Professor Sukenik was counting the votes on the radio while Professor Sukenik was sitting at the desk with one of the first scrolls, it was Hodayot scrolls, and realized that he was holding a scroll from Second Temple times. And he said, what could be more symbolic than, as we're voting for the creation of the new state of Israel, to hold in my hands a manuscript 2,000 years old.
70 years later, the Dead Sea Scrolls are still revealing new facts from their ancient past. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Dead Sea Scrolls Lab in Jerusalem.
And coming up, FBI employees continuously deal with darker facets of life. We're going to show you how a staff-trained chaplain helps them through dark times. When a terrorist attack happens, those who investigate the crime scene are often subjected to horrific scenes. To help investigators deal with those experiences, a group of chaplains are on call for the FBI. CBN's national security correspondent Eric Rosales has a closer look at them.
September 11, 2001. A day when terrorists hijacked 4 airplanes to use in suicide attacks to kill nearly 3,000 people. Those who lived through it remember the carnage like it was yesterday, some 17 years later.
It's chaos initially, because it's completely unexpected.
Steve Davis works for the FBI, but not as an agent. He's an FBI chaplain. He was first on the scene after the plane crashed into the Pentagon on September 11th.
Dealing with people that were dealing with the unthinkable, whether it was the bodies of children on the plane, dealing with the human remains, that takes a toll on a person.
After 19 years on the job, Davis says he's seen the spiritual battle between good and evil.
In federal law enforcement, you're dealing with people who are intentionally evil, and that's a whole different breed. And when you're dealing with people who are intentionally evil, you need to be intentionally spiritual or find some means of neutralizing it, because evil it's not just toxic, it's corrosive.
To help overcome that evil, the department has 130 FBI chaplains scattered throughout the nation. They are part of a volunteer crisis intervention team that provides spiritual first aid to FBI agents often working chaotic scenes with mass casualties, like last year's Las Vegas shooting.
Talking with the person, helping them just say what they need to say, trying to give them a bottle of water. If they want prayer, praying with them, meeting them where they are. That's what Jesus did. He met us where we are and became like us in all things except for sin.
Chaplain Davis says it's all about spiritual balance. The FBI first added chaplains in 1991 after employees involved in shootings and other gruesome investigations asked for support beyond mental health professionals.
I will try to go into the local field office once a week and basically be present.
It's not just major crisis situations where chaplains are used. They're also inside each of the field offices across the country and have the same security clearance as an agent. They provide spiritual guidance when employees are facing difficult situations and personal tragedies in their private lives.
Just, kind of tenderize the environment to the fact that there's someone here who cares, and who cares not only about the personnel, knows what's happening in the field, but also caring about their family and who they are as a person.
The Bureau understands that all of its employees are human and have all of the problems everybody else does, plus all of the problems that come along with the job.
Chaplains say most of their counseling happens months after a crime scene clears. They say their reward comes in helping these people realize the difference they are making.
God is on the side of justice, and because God is on the side of justice, those who are in the Bureau, in the Department of Justice, are enforcing and are the peacemakers for God.
I'm glad the Bureau realizes we have more than just minds and bodies, but we have a heart and a human spirit.
Why do you do it?
It's a calling. I mean, no other reason. There is absolutely no reason to deal with the stress and the problems other than a calling and an equipping, a sense of compassion.
FBI chaplains say the role of law enforcement has changed so much over the years. Agents are taught to uphold the Constitution and protect America. That means keep us free and safe at the same time. A stressful and dangerous job where spiritual guidance from chaplains can make a big difference. Eric Rosales, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, bringing the Bible to life on the big stage. We're going to take you behind the scenes of Sight and Sound Theater. The Bible comes to life on the stages of Sight and Sound Theater. It's an experience you won't soon forget. And this week, Studio 5 takes you to Branson, Missouri and Lancaster, Pennsylvania for a first look at the season's massive productions. And we begin with the Sight and Sound Theater here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
So we actually started to incorporate LED technology and created an LED screen for the show.
Where 3 years of preparation now showcase its newest production, Jesus. So you get to play the role of Jesus in this production. How does it feel to walk in those shoes?
It can be pretty overwhelming at times. Everyone sort of has their vision and their image in their mind of who Jesus is. And I think there's something different playing Jesus, whereas if you're playing Moses or Noah or something like that, people tend to give more leeway, go, okay, well that's their interpretation of Noah or Moses, but an actor portraying Jesus, people hone in and they go, no, that's he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't make that choice.
Yeah.
Like, that's not Jesus. People are very particular, very picky, so it's been a process of laying myself aside and going, it's not about me, it's not about, my talent or anything like that. As long as I'm willing and able, the Lord will tell the story He wants to be told. So, yeah.
A lot of prayer involved in getting ready for this.
So much prayer. So much prayer. Yeah. Everyone back home, everyone that I know has just been texting me constantly, hey, we're covering you in prayer. The Branson family out there in Sampson, they've all been messaging us, we're praying for you guys, we're covering you guys. It's been awesome.
And speaking of Branson, Missouri, it's home to this year's Sight and Sound Theater production of the biblical story of Samson.
There are not many theaters that you get a chance to work with that are honestly wanting to share the gospel. And with that, you have beautiful people, you have beautiful experiences, and you can even, once you step into the doors, you feel it. You feel the love. And I appreciate that, and it made me excited, and especially seeing the sets, the big cast, the animals, it got me excited. So I was ready.
How do you go from being in Lancaster to now being in Branson in the lead role of Samson?
Only God. Only God. I was in the production of Samson out there and had the opportunity of going on for Samson a few times, and through a series of wonderful, beautiful events, I'm here now doing Samson in Branson, and I'm loving it. Brand new here, 2 months in.
2 months in.
And excited to see where that journey goes.
And you can see the production of Samson at Sight and Sound Theater in Branson, Missouri. As for the production of Jesus, you can see that at the Sight and Sound Theater in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It is the first year for that show. It took 3 years to prepare, and it is well worth seeing. Stay with us. There's much more of CBN NewsWatch coming up, and it's coming up right after this. Well, the weekend is here, and if your plans include a trip to the movie theater, our friends at Plugged In Online have a family-friendly review of the film Adrift.
The movie Adrift tells a story of love, terror, and survival. Back in 1983, a sun-kissed 20-something named Tammy Oldman was making her way to any place the salty breezes might carry her. As the story begins, she's in Tahiti, taking small jobs on a local pier until she can earn enough to move on. But then, young wandering Tammy encounters a kindred spirit. His name is Richard Sharp, a handsome Englishman who's exploring various tropical locales in his own homemade boat. Before you can say drop the mainsail, these two like-minded travelers fall in love and start talking of sailing around the world together.
I'm not going anywhere without you. Come sail with me.
And then a sailing yacht delivery job to California just falls into their laps. It's perfect, until that is...
Hurricane Raymond has been upgraded to a Category 5.
Should we be worried? They encounter a massive storm that leaves them broken and adrift in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Get below! I'm not leaving you! Get below now!
This film, based on a true story, is well acted and at times emotionally stirring. It showcases love, self-sacrifice, and heroic endurance during an incredibly perilous sea disaster. But this is also a difficult movie to watch at times. There are bloody and torn fleshy visuals, long stretches of physical torment, foul language, and some sensual situations to swim through. So I'll give Adrift 2.5 small tins of sardines out of 5 for family friendliness. For an in-depth review of this film or anything else at your local box office, be sure to go to our website, which is pluggedin.com. Plugging you into the movies, I'm Bob Olszewski for Focus on the Family's Plugged In Movie Review.
Doesn't sound too family friendly. Well, it is time now for your Friday Faithful, and I pray this message will encourage you as we round out yet another week. Remember, you carry the light of the Lord with you everywhere you go. With this truth, you drive out darkness wherever you go. With that word, be the light, walk in the light. You are the light because you carry the light of the Lord. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Thank you so much for your company. And remember, you can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And be sure to take the time to tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, we love to hear from you. You can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make this a fabulous Friday and a wonderful weekend. We'll see you right back here come Monday. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless.